Alrighty, mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alrighty, we're live. And as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be going over drawing shapes again in C++ SDL3. That said, last stream I did go over drawing shapes in SDL3 as well, but I just mastered on how to draw rectangles. Today I'm going to be going through the other forms as well. I'm actually mute myself from here real quick. Yo, hiding a yada, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that said, let's go to my gameplay screen. And guys, this is like a news chat, so let's say something like "Sutsei, I'm live!" exclamation. Okay, guys, if I can read properly, that's because I'm not warmed up yet. That said, so you're okay, so you're live. Are you pupil? Then listen up. Everyone in this stream today is not just another day of learning, it's a battlefield of code. Every line you write is a strike against ignorance, every bug you fix is a step towards mastery. Like my stubborn pupil, you better show these viewers that your dedication is stronger than your excuses. Failure isn't your enemy. Comfort is the difference between a master. The difference between amateurs and masters is that masters keep training after it stops being fun. I highly doubt this was said by Zoro Sensei. That said, you remember me. Honestly, I do remember you. How are you doing? I appreciate you joining the stream. My exam was good, by the way. Oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. That said, now tell people, what topic shall we crush today? Let me say something like, let's say, maybe, dot dot dot. I probably tell. Let's say something like maybe drawing shapes in SDL3 question mark. That said, I honestly want to review on how actually let's see. So I honestly want to review Rex. Last stream I did draw Rex. That said, maybe I want to draw Rex again for warm-up. Guys, I cannot phrase. Oh my gosh. Okay, I couldn't come to your stream yesterday. What are we doing today? Honestly, yesterday I did go over drawing shapes and using SDL3. That's it. Today I'm going to be drawing shapes as well. I did master how to draw Rex last stream, but I do want to review before moving on to circles and all that stuff. That said, a warm-up you say, good. Even a master swordsmith starts each day by hammering the same straight edge. Rectangles it is. Before we draw anything, remind yourself SDL is a state machine. You command it precisely. Okay, let's review these steps. Alright, I think I honestly know these steps. That said, let's get some /ChatGPT there. Hold up, guys. Let's get that there. Okay, there we go. Let's get some /ChatGPT up here. Maybe zoom out a bit. There we go. Okay, this is the code from last stream because I didn't have like time to code off stream. That's it. Let's start off by deleting everything. Howding, Chickout? Is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream though. That's it. Howding Wishes, I appreciate you joining the stream as well. Okay, next up, let me firstly start off by including a probe ankle braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream, and next up, I'm going to be including something else as well. Since I am going to be using SDL, I'm going to be including SDL3/SDL.h. I'm assuming the .h stands for the SDL's header files. That's it. I'm pretty sure this should be SDL. There we go. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with integer main, add a prof parentheses. Now my main function is going to be requiring two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc, and the second parameter is going to be a character of argv, which is going to be an array. Let's go with something like argv. There we go. Okay, I'm assuming this is a pointer to an array of argv. That's it. I'll go with the prof curly braces. Where are you from? Honestly, I used to answer a lot, but many of you guys did say me to avoid saying where I'm from, so I kind of avoid saying that these days, guys. Okay, that said, in my main function, now firstly, I'm going to check if my SDL did not initialize properly, and if it did not initialize properly, I'm going to give myself an error. To do that, I could go with something like an if statement. I'll go with if, a prof parentheses. I'll do something like SDL underscore init, with a prof parentheses, SDL underscore init underscore video. Basically what this is like a boolean variable that returns 0 if like my SDL did initialize properly. So I'm going to be adding an exclamation here for not. If this thing did not return 0, I'm going to do something. I'll go with the prof curly braces. Then let's say I'll add a standard C error with an insertion operator. This is going to say something like SDL underscore init error. Okay, perfect. Next up, I'll go in a new line, add another insertion operator, and do something like SDL underscore get error. This gets me an error. And then I'll add a prof parentheses to invoke the function. And then let's go with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, lastly, let's go ahead and return one saying that something went wrong here. Okay, now that I've checked like if my SDL did not initialize properly, now let's go ahead and create a window and a renderer. So I'll go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window, and honestly I feel like I want to title case this renderer. Okay, so to create window and render, since I am going to be creating them both at once, firstly I'm going to be, let's say, creating a SDL underscore window. Okay, honestly this is going to be like a capitalized window, and then I'll add a asterisk for a pointer to my window object, which is going to be equal to null PDR. Honestly, null PDR is like a placeholder because I'm not setting it to something right now. Later, I am going to be setting it to create window and render at the same time. That said, let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Hi there, Pixel. I appreciate you joining the stream. This live stream is available in both horizontal and vertical form. Am I right? Honestly, yeah, that does make sense. It is honestly because many of you guys did say me to like stream horizontally as well. And since my PC, since I didn't get a new PC that doesn't lag much, I just started multi-streaming too and stream horizontally and vertically. That said, next up, let's go ahead and create a renderer as well. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore renderer with, let's say, a pointer or a asterisk for my renderer variable, which is going to be equal to null PDR as well. That's basically a placeholder. Okay, next up, now let's go ahead and create my window and render. To do that, I could do something like SDL underscore. What are you doing? Honestly, I'm learning on how to draw shapes in SDL. Last stream, I did work on drawing shapes as well. I learned how to draw the rectangle. That's it. Today, I'm going to be reviewing by drawing a rectangle. Later on, maybe I'll go ahead and draw circles as well. That said, I'll go with something like SDL underscore create window and renderer. Guys, I feel these function names are way too massive to remember. Okay, so I'm going to use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Now, this requires, I'm assuming, 4 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a title. What is my Windows caption going to be? The second is my width. Third is my height. What should the width of my window be? What should the height of my window be? Then I gotta give my window flag. Do I want it to be resizable? If I don't want it to be anything, I set it to be 0. And then I go ahead and add my window object and my renderer object. How are you doing, Zishan? Is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. I think I know you from first grade, honestly. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and firstly add a title. For my title, I could go with something like SDL3 window created successfully. There we go. Honestly, should I change the successfully to like capital S? There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a comma. Now I'll need a width and height for my window. Let's keep my window's width to be 800 pixels and my window's height to be 600 pixels. Next up, for like my flag, let's go with something like that my window can be resized. So I could go with something like SDL underscore window underscore resizable. Okay, and then I'll add a comma. Now I gotta give my window variable and my renderer variables is memory address. So I'll go with something like ampersand or address of operator for my window variable, comma, and ampersand or address of operator for my renderer variable. There we go. Okay, perfect. And then honestly, I'm gonna end this whole thing with a semicolon. Okay, hello C++ dev bro. You try Java? Honestly, eventually later when I do have like a series where I gotta like make a website, I'll definitely try Java. Okay, because I am pretty excited to try it. That said, now that I've created my window and renderer, let's check if it did not, be created, or if it did not like create itself properly. If it did not, I'm gonna throw myself an error. To do that, I could go with something like an if statement. I'll go with if, a parentheses. Where are you from? Honestly, I used to like say that a lot, but many of you guys did say me to avoid saying that, so I like avoid saying where I'm from. That said, I'll go with something like if not window or not renderer. Basically what this means is like if my window object does okay, hold up guys, this should be like 2 $! For an hour. There we go. Okay, basically what this means is my window object returns 0 if a window successfully created, and my renderer object returns 0 as well if my renderer created successfully. But adding a not here says if either my window did not be created properly or my renderer is not created properly. I'm gonna do something. Firstly, I'll go with a standard C error with an insertion operator that is gonna say something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. Honestly, I write the same name as the function because I feel like later if I do have an error, it's going to be much easier to figure out where the error occurred. That said, Google how to set up into lessons in Visual Studio for C++ so that you don't have to type and guess names of functions and variables. Honestly, I did check that. I disabled it like on purpose because like I feel it just gets like in my way because like when I write something, I see like the whole like my entire screen is filled like with whatchamacallit with like stuff like this. I'm like, guys, I don't want that. Okay, that said, I'll go in a new line, add another insertion operator of something like, let's say, SDL underscore get error with a pair of parentheses to invoke the function. Lastly, I'll go with a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, if an error did occur, firstly, I'm going to be exiting my SDL, so I'll do something SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return one ending with a semicolon. And that's honestly pretty much it for this. Okay, next up, here's the thing. Do I want to create one rectangle or multiple? I think I'll go with creating multiple rectangles. Okay, to do that, first I could go ahead and add a comment that says something like create rectangles. There we go. Okay, now to create rectangles, firstly, I'm going to do something. Let's see. I'm going to be going with something like SDL underscore frect. Okay, basically frect is like a floating point rect. Now, beside this, I'm going to be creating an array of rectangles. So I'll go with something like rects with a row of square brackets. Let's say I want to create, I don't know, maybe 5 rectangles. Okay, and then I'm going to set that equal to add a row of curly braces. Now I'm going to be adding whatchamacallit, the x-axis, y-axis, width and height for all 5 rectangles. And guys, last stream I did do a mistake of like going with whatchamacallit, a pair of parentheses. That's why I did get an error. That said, we gotta go with a pair of curly braces. Now I'll go with something like my rectangle's x-axis is gonna be something like, I don't know, maybe okay, so what's my width and height? So 800 by 600. I want my rectangle to be at the top, so I'll go with something like 400 by 300. I'll go with, honestly, maybe I'll go with something like, I don't know, like I want it to be at the left, so I'll go with something like 0 and top is going to be something like 600. Maybe I'll go with something like 550. Guys, this is like more of the visuals, like you guys can like visualize like where the 0 is, where like 550 is. Okay, why don't you use using namespace std? Honestly, the reason I don't use using namespace std is because eventually in bigger projects, not prefixing with standard can like cause name conflict, so it is a pretty good practice to avoid using namespace std. That said, and let's go with something like my width is going to be 50 and my height is going to be 50 as well. Honestly, I might add a space here. There we go. Okay, so that is my first rectangle. Now let's go ahead and create another. Honestly, I feel this is like a square instead of a rectangle. I think that's fine. Okay, next up, I'll go with something like 70. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add something like maybe 400. My y-axis is 400. Let's say my width is something like 80 and my height is something like 80. I'm creating squares, guys. And then I'll go with another pair of curly braces. Now, let's say my x-axis is gonna be something like maybe 200. Okay, and my y-axis is gonna be something like 300. Okay, and my width is gonna be something like, I don't know, maybe 75, and my height is going to be 75 as well. Okay, honestly, I think 3 rectangles are enough, guys. That hurts my brain so much, like make up coordinates. Okay, so I'll go with my array size is 3. Maybe I'll go with 5. I can just create 2 more. How are you doing? Shayari, is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, bro, which keyboard are you using? 60% or 75% or full size? Guys, that's the keyboard that I'm using. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like an HP keyboard. It's pretty old and huge, guys. Okay, that said, now let's go ahead and create another rectangle. This is going to be something like, let's say 300. I'll go with something like 300. Okay, and then let's go with something like 200. X-axis 300, y-axis 200, width 100, height 100. And lastly, I'll go with my final rectangle, which is going to be at the x-axis of 400. My y-axis is going to be something like 100. My width is going to be something like 10, and my height is going to be 10. That's the tiniest rectangle, guys. How are you doing, Shakshim? Is that... Guys, I'm so awful at pronouncing names. That's it. I do appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, and that's pretty much it for my recs. Now let's go ahead and create something else. So, I'm going to go ahead and add a comment that says something like game loop. So, I'm going to be creating my game loop right now. I'm an engineer. That actually sounds really cool, guys. Okay, and let me actually end this with a semicolon. There we go. Okay, now for my game loop, firstly, let's go ahead and create a Boolean variable called is running. which is initially going to be set to true. Okay, and then I'm going to end that with a semicolon. Now let's add a event loop as well. So I'm going to go with something, a event variable as well. So I'll go ahead and create a SDL underscore event variable, which is going to be something like event, ending with a semicolon. Okay, Shakshi? Oh, that actually does make sense. Okay, welcome, me and myself. Okay, next up, now let's go ahead and create a while loop. So I'll do something like while, add a pair of parentheses. I'll type something like while is running, while my program is running or while my is running is set to true. I'm going to do something. What up, guys? This is C++, not Python. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my is running while loop, I'm going to be adding another nested while loop for my events. So I'll go with another while loop. Okay, so I'll go with while, a pair of parentheses, while my SDL underscore poll event. There we go. Okay, with a pair of parentheses, I'll give my event variable by its reference. So I'll go with an ampersand event. Okay, so basically the SDL underscore poll event checks what all events are going on. Once all events are done, the while loop ends. Okay, and then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my poll event or inside of my nested while loop that checks for events, honestly, to like make it a bit more clear, I'm going to add a comment here that says something like event loop. Okay, for my event loop, I'm going to be adding an if statement to check my event type. So I'll go with something like if my, let's say, event variable dot type, okay, equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. This basically means if my event type is quit and like my player clicked the like X button in the top of the window, then I'm gonna set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. Then my entire while loop ends. Okay, so what's up? Honestly, I'm learning on how to like draw shapes in SDL3. That said, that's pretty much it for my while loop. Now let's go outside of my while loop, add a comment and say something like fill screen. So I'm gonna firstly fill my screen with like a color. I'm thinking, honestly, I don't remember all RGB colors memorized. That said, I do remember like the color for like a cyan, like a scenery type color. So let's do that first. I'm going to firstly fill my entire screen. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore, was it set render draw color? I think it was set render draw color function. Guys, these function names are so huge. There we go. Okay, set render draw color with a pair of parentheses. Now, I'm going to be requiring a few parameters. Let's check what all. Firstly, I'm going to be requiring my render parameter, the render variable that we created, then a RGB parameters, and lastly a, which is alpha / opacity. Okay, what are you doing? Honestly, I am actually learning how to draw shapes in C++ using SDL3. That said, I use low code as ASI, though I don't know coding, though I'm an engineer. I need to learn. I'm in final year. That actually makes sense. He's making a game. Honestly, I'm learning how to draw objects. That said, this is going to be my render variable. Okay. And then let's go with something like an RGB. Hold up, guys. Maybe I'll go in a new line. There we go. I'll go with something like render. And then now my RGB, let's go with something like 0, 248, and 255. Basically, this is like, a cyanish color. And lastly, my opacity is going to be 255 as well, which is technically 100% opacity. Now that I've added my set render draw color, let's go ahead and fill my screen with it. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render clear function with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be my render variable. Okay, ending with a semicolon. What this basically does is I set these three values to my render variable. Now I clear my entire screen with these colors. So my window is going to be a bit bluish color. Okay, you're good at sis. Guys, I'm a guy. Okay, do you use Unity? Honestly, I haven't like tried Unity. That said, I think like the the game engine for C++ is like Unreal. That's it, and it gets executed in long codes. Hiding Abood, is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, that's it. Now that I've filled my screen with a certain color, let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like graphics. I'm assuming like when we draw shapes, that is considered graphics. That's it. To add my graphics. Okay, let's see. I could firstly go with something like SDL underscore set render draw color function again. Draw color with a pair of parentheses. Hold up, guys. There we go. With a pair of parentheses. Now, for my set render draw color, I would need a few parameters for my for my I forgot what I want to say, guys. For my squares inside of my rect, although since this is an array, if I did like, let me actually fill in a few parameters here. I'll go with something like render. Okay, and then let's say my first color, like my first square is going to be black. I'll go with 255. Okay, and then let's go ahead and end that with a semicolon. Alright, so basically what this is right now, wait, hold up guys, hold up. Let me actually first type this out, then I can explain what I'm actually doing. Okay, next up I'll go with something like SDL underscore render fill rex's function. This is like another function. Hold up guys, render fill rex. There we go, with a pair of parentheses. This is gonna be my render variable, and then my rect at index of 0 ending with a semicolon. Okay, my rex's structure, my rex's arrays of structures, first element. Okay, hold up guys, let's check the parameters that it needed. So it needed a const and it needed an integer. I'm pretty sure this was like correct. Hold up guys, there we go. Okay, maybe I didn't need like whatchamacallit, an ampersand. There we go. Wait, did I add index of 0? Hold up guys. Okay guys, I think I missed so many chats. Nice to find you again. Honestly, I appreciate you for that. I'll subscribe just because you're coding on stream. That actually does make sense. I appreciate you guys for that as well. Why are you acting like that, bro? Guys, I'm acting like abnormal. That said, what are you doing? Just join. Honestly, I'm actually learning on how to like draw objects in SDL3 using C++. That said, I feel like I did this part correct. Okay, so did I spell everything correct? So SDL underscore fill render. This requires two parameters. First is, oh, hold up guys, I think I did it correct. Let's go with something like at index of 0, and here's something like 5. Okay, so alright, so now I can explain what I'm basically doing. Okay, basically what I did here is first I used the SDL underscore set render draw color function to like add a color for my object. So this is basically a color for all my squares or all my rectangles inside of my SDL underscore, inside of my rex's array, which consists of 5 elements. So all my colors or my squares are going to be black, and then I went with something like render fill rex. The SDL underscore render fill rex basically it colors all my rectangles inside of my structure or inside of my array. Okay, that said, this requires 3 parameters: my render parameter, my rex's parameter, my rex's structures parameter, lastly a count on how many elements are there inside of my array. Although, what if I didn't want all my colors or all my squares inside of my array to be the same color? To do that, I could like honestly change this function name. I could just remove the rex. Hold up guys, there we go. I can just remove the rex and change this to be a rect. Okay, and I'm going to do something like an index of 0. There we go. I think this should go with, there we go. Okay, so now the SDL underscore render fill rect colors every one rect inside of my array. It could be like even outside of my array. Okay, your PC config. Hold up, whatever you're learning, it will help you. Whatever you're learning, will it help you to get employed? Honestly, I haven't like I haven't like thought of that. That said, how old are you, man? Honestly, I am like 17. That's it. I am going to be turning 18 really soon, guys. My birthday is on the January 5th. I don't think I'm going to be having like any special plans for that. That said, this is the color for my first rect. Now, if I want to add a color for the second element inside of my array, I could go ahead and paste that down here and like do the same exact thing. Now, let's go ahead and change my at index of 0 to at index of 1 to change the color for the first element inside of my array, which is like the second item. Okay, the second element inside of my array, which is index 1. There we go. Configuration, your PC configuration. What ID are you using? Honestly, I used to like use Visual Studio Code. That's it. Ever since I started SDL, I have to like use Visual Studio. I feel Visual Studio is pretty fun as well. That's it. Let's go ahead and change my color. Let's say my second square is going to be a red square. Now, if I want to go ahead and color my third square, I could go with SDL underscore set render draw color. This is going to be for my, let's say, second element inside of my vector, or the second index of my array, which is the third element. And let's say the color is going to be green, so I'll go with 255 here. And now let's paste it again. Okay, now this time I'm going to change the 0 to be 3. That is the index 3 of my array, which is the fourth element. Okay, let's say that is going to be something like blue. So I'll go with something like 255. There we go. Okay, and then now let's lastly go ahead and paste it again for the fifth element inside of my array, which is the actually the index of 4 in my array, which is the fifth element. There we go. Okay guys, so now what color should I add for this? Should I go with something like a random color? Let's go with something like 248. Let's go with something like 77. And let's change this to something like, I don't know, maybe 135. Guys, these are random colors. Okay, that said, this is honestly, pretty much it for like drawing the objects. Now let's go ahead and exit outside of my while loop. I'm going to be adding, let's say something like a cleanup once my player does exit my window. So I'll go ahead and add a comment that says something like cleanup. He knows every range and color codes. Guys, I feel like I don't know all the range and color codes. That said, I do know like a few basic ones. That said, I too used to, yes, Visual Studio is best for every language. It actually does make sense. I'll go completely my program, see you when I follow you. Honestly, it does make sense. I love your programming skills. I appreciate you. Sakshi, is that how you pronounce your name? Okay, why not loop through it? Honestly, I feel that does actually make sense. I could honestly do that as well using like a for loop as well, and like using an array for colors to like add those array for colors inside of my squares as array. But I did want to try doing it manually as well because I do want to like experience it both ways, because like I feel adding it with an array would be kind of easier. Okay, next up, once my player does exit my window, I'll go ahead and destroy my window. So I'll do something like SDL underscore destroy window with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be my window variable ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and do a SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon as well. And lastly, let's go ahead and return 0 ending with a semicolon. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, so like I got a window here. What up, guys? Okay, I got another window here. Why is the window black? If I extend it, I do see multiple squares here. What up, guys? Was something wrong here? Wait, I exited my entire Visual Studio. What up, guys? So let's go ahead and open it again. There we go. Okay, wait, guys, did I like do something wrong when I was adding my color for my screen? What up, guys? Let's scroll all the way up, and when I go with something like SDL underscore set render draw color, I see where I messed up, guys. So after adding our graphics, there's one more thing that we need to do. We gotta honestly present it on the screen. I actually forgot to present it, guys. There are so many function names to remember. Okay, so to present it, I could go with something like SDL underscore render present. This presented all on my screen, ending with a semicolon. Hiding Kalsmir, is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, I'll go ahead and Control S to save the code, and if I were to run the command, let's see what happens. There was a build error. Oh wait, guys, this does require my render variable. There we go. Okay, now if I were to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. There we go. Okay, so this is my window. It has a good blue color at the side. And these are the, the RGBs. So that is my first square, second square, third square, fourth square, and fifth square. If I extend the size, why does it go all the way to the left? There we go, it like goes to the left. Okay, that said, honestly, I feel like I do know how to like create squares. I should like go with other objects now. Okay, let's go ahead and copy that. Is that like flushing a cache? Honestly, the render present without this, like the screen won't like actually have colors. It's just going to be having the objects in there. If I do like present my render, it's gonna like add all these colors here that I added, this SDL render, rect fill, and all that stuff. Okay, that's let's get Sensei slash ChatGPT here. What up, guys? There we go. Okay, and guys, I gotta like set this at the perfect spot so like the vertical screens can also see this. There we go. I think that should be about right. Okay, now let's go ahead and go all the way down. Maybe zoom in a little. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and paste this. Go with Shift Enter and say something like, say, I feel like I understand how to draw Rex. Can we work on the next shape, question mark? Okay, and what is the next shape? Okay, let's see the next shape. I think it's like printing to display. That actually does make sense. That's like one of the best ways to word it. Okay, what are you programming? Honestly, I am just learning how to draw like shapes in SDL3 using C++. That said, finally your hand has stopped trembling like a newborn deer. Good, very good. You've drawn rectangles cleanly, multiple ones with different colors, proper event handling, and cleanup. That's the discipline I expect from a future game developer. Now, it's time to graduate from boxes to circles. Next shape is the circle. Here's the trick. SDL3 does not have a built-in function. Okay, guys, that's different from Pi games. In Pi games, we didn't have like a function to like actually draw the circle. That's it. Like creating a string str doesn't display. That actually does make sense. Okay, next up, it's like for drawing circles directly, SDL only provides primitive functions for points, lines, and rectangles. Everything else, circles, triangles, polygons, you have to build it yourself point by point. Okay, this is going to be fun, guys. That's where your skill comes in. You use mathematics, the equation of a circle to plot points, because I'm awful at math. That said, how you doing? Rohit, is that a pronounced your name? I appreciate you joining the stream, bro. It's 1 a.m. Will you sleep? Honestly, it is like, whatchamacallit, it's almost 2 p.m. for me. That said, speak slowly. Honestly, I'm actually loud. GPT made fun of him for no reason. Okay, that said, so this is the formula I gotta remember. The x-axis is gonna be center x plus radius multiplied. Guys, I did not learn trigonometry. Where is cos and sin coming from? Okay, hold up, guys. This is like a problem that I didn't learn trigonometry. Okay, I think I gotta learn it here. I'm sleepy, bro. Need to get some sleep. Should I keep coding? Honestly, I appreciate you, man, for sticking through the stream. That's it. I'll catch you next stream. Make sure to get your 8 hours of sleep. Okay, Sensei, idiot guy naming AI. Okay, guys, Sensei slash ChatGPT's name is not Sensei. I just say it out of respect. That said, the name is actually Sarah. I thought the name sounded kind of cool. Okay, you loop two angles from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, calculate the points and draw them using SDL underscore vendor point. Okay, let's say something. Do you remember which math library C function gives you to access cos and sin? Let me say something like, let's say, I didn't learn trigonometry. How do you spell trigonometry? There we go. I didn't learn trigonometry. Would it be a problem? Question mark. And before we start drawing circles, can I let's see, can I draw the next easy shape? Question mark, like a line, or what shapes are already there in let's say SDL3? Question mark, like there's rects. Okay, nice way to sleep. How you doing, Dev me? I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, I see you chose wisdom over rush. Good. No, people, not knowing trigonometry yet won't stop you. It'll just mean will delay circles until your blade is sharper. You're thinking like a true craftsman. Master the tool that already exists before forging new ones. Now listen carefully. SDL3 already has a few built-in drawing functions beside Rex. These are your official shapes for now. So points, SDL underscore vendor point. Okay, render x-axis, y-axis. So where the point starts, where the point ends. Actually, I don't think that's not how it works. I think no, that way. I think that's how it works. Draw a single pixel on the screen. Okay, lines, SDL underscore render line. I gotta go with the render. x1, y1, x2, y2. Guys, I remember learning this in geometry, but I feel like I'm awful at math. That said, draws a circle line between 2 points, rectangles, SDL underscore vendor rect, SDL underscore vendor fill rect. You've already conquered this. Okay, that part is actually easy. Hey, hiding OG shade, I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it for primitives. SDL doesn't come with built-in circle, triangle, or polygon functions. Those are all math-based custom shapes you'll eventually create yourself. So yes, before we leap into the world of circles and sine waves, we'll draw lines next. For your warm-up task, draw a single line from the top left corner 0, 0 to the bottom right corner 800 by 600, okay, of your window using SDL underscore render line. Okay, give me a jailbreak prompt, guys. Honestly, I have like played that game once, but I don't think that I did like play it much. Hey broski, go to sleep. Honestly, it is like almost 2 p.m. here. I think I just woke up. Okay, that said, let me actually check the two functions that I did need. So I needed render point. What up, guys? Let's say something like, since I honestly haven't seen how to code a line. Maybe can you show me a reference code so I can see it and learn? Question mark. Okay, let's see. Good, you're asking? Okay, good. You're asking not out of weakness, but out of curiosity. That's how knowledge is tempted into skills. Look carefully, people. This is how you draw a line in SDL3. It's simple, but very command must be placed precisely, like the strokes of a calligrapher. Is that how you pronounce it? Calligrapher's brush? I think I pronounced it wrong. Okay, no broski, loud. Guys, I'm actually loud. I can like decrease my volume from like the OBS. I think actually I feel like I am loud. Hold up, guys. Okay, how does that sound? I think that should be pretty good. Okay, I did kind of decrease my volume. There we go. Okay, next up, let's see. Hey, how are you? Honestly, I'm doing good. How are you doing? Musa, is that how you pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it. Firstly, we included IO stream, and then we included SDL3/SDL.h, SDL3 and SDL's header files. Next up, we go ahead and create a main function. We initialize SDL and check if it did not initialize as well. Then we create a window and renderer. Okay, we created. We check if our window or renderer did not display properly, if that made any sense, or did not render properly. Which other language are you familiar with? Honestly, I did like actually learn Python because I had like a Python for 100-day series. Well, my goal by the end of that series was to make a game in general, which consists of actually making a game in general. I was done with that series about 54 days ago, guys, and I did like write a 450 lines of game. It's Musa, bro. Oh, that actually does sound pretty cool. Okay, that said, then I go ahead and create a main loop, okay, or like game loop. I think it's the same thing. I think I'll call it main loop as well, where I go ahead and add my event loop, okay, and then I clear the screen with a color, and then I set color for the line, okay. Okay, set color for the line. So it says set color for the line. So SDL underscore set render draw color. I think I see what this actually means now. So the line is going to be a red color, and then draw a line from the top left to the bottom right, okay, SDL underscore render line, and then renderer 0, 0, so the x-axis 0, y-axis 0, width and height is 800 and 600. Is that x1 and y1, guys? I gotta actually check that real quick. Okay, that said, what's SDL? Honestly, if you guys are like familiar with Pygame and Python, it is like the it's the kind of Pygame, but like for like different languages like C++, C#, and all that stuff. Okay, hiding name fruits. I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it. Present the frame SDL underscore present render present. I think I see the core command SDL underscore render line. Render x1, y1, x2, y2. It draws a line from x1, y1 to x2, y2. I see. SDL uses your renderer's current draw color to decide what line appears in. I think I see. I think that the logic should be the same. So no front end line like slash framework. Honestly, I haven't like looked into what actually means front end or back end. I feel like back end is like all the programming that we do. That said, let me go ahead and start off by including prof anchor braces. Let's say I want to include IO stream. And next up, since I am going to be working with SDL, I am going to be including SDL3/SDL.h. SDL's is header files. Did I spell include wrong? Okay, I think I spelled IO stream wrong. There we go. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a prof parentheses. You explained very well, it's very understanding. Honestly, I do appreciate you for that, guys, because sometimes I'd be like, am I like talking too quick? Because like many of you guys did say me to like kind of slow down when talking. I should actually slow down, honestly. Okay, that said, let me start off by, let's say, I'll go with integer main, and let's go ahead and create a integer argc with a prof square, actually. And then I'll go with something like a character of argv. This is going to be an array. And then I'll go with the prof curly braces. Okay, you're doing great. Keep it up. I appreciate you, Musa. Okay, and then once I do create a main function, now I'm going to be initializing my SDL. So I'm going to add an if statement to check if it's not initialized properly. So I'll go with the prof parentheses. Let's say if my SDL underscore init with a prof parentheses, my SDL underscore init underscore video was not initialized properly or it didn't return 0, I'm going to do something. I'll add a prof curly braces, and then let's add a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore init error. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to go in a new line, add another insertion operator of, let's say, something like SDL underscore get error. Okay, and then I'll add a prof parentheses, then I'll go with an insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 1, ending with a semicolon. Okay, then after I'm done initializing my SDL, I'm gonna go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window and renderer. There we go. Okay, so for my create window and renderer, firstly, I'm gonna be, let's say, creating SDL underscore window variable. This is going to be a capitalized window, and I'm going to be creating a pointer to my window variable, which is initially going to be set to something like null PDR, which is basically a placeholder. So my window is not currently set to anything. On the other hand, if I wasn't creating my window and renderer at the same time, I would go with something like SDL underscore window, or my window variable is going to be equal to SDL underscore create window, if that made any sense, guys. And then I'll go with the pair of parentheses. This requires, let's say, how many parameters: a title, width, and height, and a flag. Although I don't want to create them separately, that's the reason I set this to null PDR. Okay, now I'm going to be creating a render variable as well, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore renderer, a pointer to my renderer variable, which is going to be set to null PDR as well. So there we go. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and end that with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and create SDL. Let's go ahead and create my window and renderer. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore create window and render function. Guys, these function names are so long. What up, guys? I think I spelled and wrong. There we go. And then let's go with the pair of parentheses. Now, I'm going to be requiring, I think, 5 parameters. I'll require a title, which is a caption of my window. Next up, I'll require the x-axis, y-axis. Then fourthly, I'll require, a flag, whether I want my window to be resizable or not resizable. And lastly, I'll require my 2 objects as well. Okay, or the memory address of my 2 objects, because these are pointers. So firstly, let's go ahead and create a caption. So I'll go with something like SDL3 window. I'll add a comma, go with width and height. Let's say my width is going to be 800 pixels and my height is going to be 600 pixels. Next up, for my flag, I could go with something like SDL underscore window underscore resizable. Okay, and guys, I think I spelled sizable wrong. There we go. Okay, although if I didn't want to set my window to be resizable, I could change this to be 0 as well, because now my window won't be resizable. That said, I feel like resizable windows does look pretty cool. Let's go with the pair of actually comma. Lastly, I'm gonna give my 2 objects my window variable. I mean, not objects, variables. My window variable and my render variable by their memory address. So I'll go with something like an ampersand or a address of operator for my window variable, and a address of operator slash a ampersand for my renderer. There we go. Okay, perfect. Did I spell renderer correct? There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to end my entire SDL underscore create window and renderer with a semicolon. Hi, Arf Gaming, I appreciate you joining this stream. Okay, next up, now that I've created a window and a renderer, let's check if they are not created properly. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses, and then I'll go with something like if not window, if my window is not created properly, or if my renderer is not created properly, I'm going to throw myself an error saying that something went wrong here. I'll go with something like a standard C error, okay, with an insertion operator. This is going to give me an SDL underscore create window and a renderer error. Guys, these function names are insane. There we go. And the reason I did keep it this long name is because that is my function name. When I give the error, it's going to be pretty easy to say where I got the error from. And then let's go ahead and add another insertion operator that does something like SDL underscore get error with a pair of parentheses. Then I'll go with another insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. What are you doing? Just curious. Honestly, I am learning on how to draw shapes in SDL3 using C++. I went through a last stream as well, and I did master on how to draw rectangles slash squares on the screen. And now I'm learning on how to draw lines on the screen. Then later on, guys, I gotta learn trigonometry to actually figure out how to draw circles on the screen. Guys, I feel like math was never my strong suit. That's I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit if either my window or my renderer did not be executed properly. That means something is messed up. I gotta instantly quit my SDL3. And then let's go ahead and return 1 saying something went wrong. Okay, perfect. Now that I've done that, let's go ahead and add a comment. Maybe I won't add a actually I will add a comment that says something like main loop. This is going to be something like my game loop. That said, firstly, I'm going to do something. Let's go ahead and create a boolean variable called something like is running, which is initially going to be set to true, ending with a semicolon. And then let's say I'm going to be creating a event variable as well. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore event. Okay, which is going to be my event variable, ending with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and create a while loop. So I'll go with something like while, a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then I'll add a nested while loop for like checking my events. This is going to be my event loop. Maybe add a comment that says event loop as well. Guys, adding all these comments isn't like important, but it is a pretty good practice, because eventually if you have like a long code, comments are what is going to like actually tell us which part of code is like for what. That said, I'm going to go with another while loop, a nested while loop that does something like SDL underscore poll event. Basically what a poll event function does is it like whatchamacallit checks what event is currently going on, or like what all events I'm like looking for. Once those events are over, I'm going to end it. And now I'm going to add a parameter. So like I need a parameter of my SDL underscore event, which is this variable here. Let's go ahead and add that here. Okay, and honestly, if I just add my event, that would be wrong, but because I do need to add the actual memory address of my event, so like I don't like change a copy of my event, or like I don't like look for a copy, instead I look for my actual event, if that made any sense, guys. And let's look for a specific event type. So I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like if my event variable dot type equals to SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, then I'm going to do something. I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. This is going to be like a lowercase false. There we go. Okay, so once it's set to false, once my player does click the X, it ends my entire loop. And then now let's go outside the while loop. I'm going to add a comment here that let's say something like fill screen. So I'll go with fill screen. I'm going to fill my screen with a color. Honestly, do I want to fill it like with a black color? I think I could actually. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore, let's say something like set render draw color function. Guys, these function names are so huge. Okay, gay coder. Guys, I'm actually not gay. I'm like kind of straight. Okay, actually not kind of. I'm like completely straight. That said, I'm going to go ahead and do something now. Let's see. So I would need a few parameters. So I'll need my render parameter. I'll need a RGB value. And then I'll need a alpha / my opacity. Okay, pink. Honestly, I actually don't know the RGB for like pink. That said, I'm going to go ahead and set my render variable here. Okay, and then I'm going to add a comma here. Next up, I'll go with something like... Okay, I wanted to go with black, but I think I'll go with something like blue. So I could do something like 248 and 255. That's the RGB color for like blue. And lastly, I'll go with the opacity, which is going to be 255. Opacity is basically how visible or how transparent something is. 255 is basically it's not transparent at all. That said, I'm going to go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Now let's go ahead and fill my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and use the SDL underscore render fill. What's the function? I think it was render clear. There we go. Okay, I'm going to clear my render. So what this SDL underscore set render draw color does is it like it adds all these attributes to my render variable. Then I clear my screen with these attributes. So now my entire screen is going to be like cyan color. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and do something. So now I'll go ahead and add a comment that says something like graphics. For my graphics, let's see how long did it take for you to learn this. I tried coding but never got any good at it. Honestly, I have been learning C++ for like 50 days. That's it. I did start SDL 4 days ago. And I feel like these functions didn't take that long once we got used to it and understood what they meant. It just took like about 4 days. Oh, you're teaching code vision? Guys, I'm actually not teaching. I'm actually learning on how to code this. That's it. I feel like we learn better if you try teaching while we learn. So I just teach while I learn. That actually does help me, guys. Okay, that's it. Next up, for my graphics, I'm going to do something. Let's go ahead and firstly use the function. I forgot the function name. It was something like SDL underscore draw line. Was it something like SDL underscore draw line? Render draw line. I think it was render draw line. Render draw line. Guys, these function names are so big. What up, guys? I'll go with something like a control space to check the names. Okay, I think I use like the draw rect. Where's the line? So it's like SDL underscore render draw line with a pair of parentheses. Okay, I think something is wrong, guys. Hold up. Let's go ahead and get some sensei/ChatGPT here. I forgot the function name, guys. It's render line, so it's not draw. It's SDL underscore render line. And the parameters that I did need is something like 0, 0, because I don't have a x1 and a y1, but I do have an x2 and a y2. What is bro yapping, guys? I'm actually learning on how to use SDL3 using C++. That said, I go with the SDL underscore render line function. This requires 4 parameters. First is going to be my render parameter. Second is going to be my x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so first let's give it my render variable. Okay, and then I'll go with x1, that is going to be 0, y1 is going to be 0, x2 is going to be something like, I don't know, maybe, I could go with something like 700 by 500. Okay, and then let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. And I just realized I think I should like set a color for my renderer as well. What language? Honestly, it is C++. That's it. I'll go ahead and create something like SDL underscore set render draw color function. Okay, with a pair of parentheses. I want my line to be, let's say, something like red. So I'll go with something like, firstly, my renderer variable, and then I'll go with 255.0.0. Okay, I'll go with 255.0.0. Opacity/alpha is going to be 255. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and end that with a semicolon. Alright, next up, let's go ahead and present it on my screen. So I'll add a comment that says something like present. Now, for my present, I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore render present. Okay, this basically, gets all my render colors on the screen, because like render is like a paintbrush that draws everything. Once I present it, you can actually see the colors in the screen. XD coding language, honestly, it is C++. Okay, why don't you use how do you pronounce that, guys? Proteus to test your code? I haven't actually heard of that. That said, this is going to be having my render variable ending with a semicolon. And now, outside of my loop, let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like cleanup. So once my player does exit the main loop and he hits the X on top and my loop ends, firstly, what I'm going to do is go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. I'm going to be destroying my window that I created. This is going to be my window variable ending with a semicolon. Then I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit ending with a semicolon as well. Lastly, I'm going to go ahead and return 0. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. What are your PC specs? Guys, I actually didn't know. I did like build my own PC, but I don't even know what specs are till now. Are you Indian? Honestly, I haven't like been to India. That's it. I'm kind of excited to someday visit India. That's it, guys. This is my line. If you guys can see, why is it not that thick? I wanted it to be a bit more thick, but I think that's like a 1 pixel line, guys. Okay, it's not that bad. It's progress, I think. What up, guys? Let's go ahead and go with something like a control C, copy that. The function was something like SDL underscore render line. There we go. I gotta always remember the function names. It's like so huge. How do you guys like actually use the docs? Because I tried using the docs to like get the function names. It's kind of tough. The only thing that actually does help me is like actually learning or like memorizing the names of the functions. That said, let's say I feel like I got a pretty good gist of this code. That said, I feel like I need a lot more practice. So maybe can I get another question mark? Okay, guys, I didn't want to write this in caps. Okay, maybe I'll add a comment that says something like didn't wanna write it in caps ... Okay, let's see, guys. I do want to use a restroom real quick. Hiding Pixel, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, why we pass arguments to the main function? I honestly still don't know why we pass in arguments. I think it would work without these arguments as well. Let me actually try that. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, hit Control S to save the code and run the command. Okay, let's see. Guys, it works without the arguments too, but like many of you guys did say me /sensei/ChatGPT did say me that arguments, adding the arguments in the main function does work, but without it also it works. I get like both my windows. That's it. I might actually ask that later. But I feel like it is like a good practice to add arguments because like later on when we're using our main function inside some other function, you might need the arguments. I don't know much, guys, but it works without them as well. Bro, hi. Will you play my new video game? Honestly, it does sound pretty cool. Maybe after I'm done streaming, if I have time, I will actually try it. Because like, guys, I do have an exam this Monday. Okay, that's it. I don't know if I'm actually prepared for that. That's it. Wait, hold up, guys. Okay, let's read the new code. Fine, allow this type pupil. You did well. Your line stretched clearly across the screen. The window responded, and you cleared your memory like a disciplined warrior. But since you asked for more practice, then you shall bleed logic and pixels both. Your next try, you'll draw 3 lines from a triangle using SDL underscore render line only. Here's your target. So 3 lines forming a triangle. Okay, so I'm assuming that's x1, y1, x1, y1, x2, y2, x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, no shortcuts, no rectangles, just lines. When you succeeded, the triangle should stack back at you a sharp blade made of math and willpower. Now go code it. And when you return, I'll decide whether you're ready to wield multiple shapes at once. Okay, I gotta remember these coordinates. Maybe I actually get Sensei in the next tab so I can actually like copy the coordinates, guys, because I feel like I'm actually awful with math because I don't like remember those coordinates. Let's scroll all the way down. Okay, hold up, guys, give me a sec. Let me scroll all the way down. There we go. Okay, now let me go ahead and start off by including a pair of ankle braces. Guys, I do want to use the restroom as well. Maybe after this question, I guess. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and include another pair of ankle braces. I want to include SDL3 slash SDL's header file, so SDL.h. Now let's go ahead and create a main function. So I'll go with something like integer main, add a pair of parentheses. My main function does require 2 parameters. The first parameter that is going to be requiring is going to be an integer of argc, and the second parameter is going to be a character, which is going to be pointing towards an array of argv. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add a pair of curly braces. Now inside of my pair of curly braces, I am going to be initializing SDL and checking if it did not initialize properly as well. So I could go with something like an if statement that initializes my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore init with a pair of parentheses, SDL underscore init underscore video. That returned 0 if it did initialize properly, although I am looking for if it did not initialize properly. So I'll go with an exclamation here. If my SDL did not initialize properly, I'll go with a pair of curly braces and add a standard C error with an insertion operator that says something like SDL underscore init error. Okay, so this goes ahead and gets me an SDL underscore init error. Then I'm gonna go in a new line add another insertion operator for my SDL underscore the get error function. This gets me an error. And then I'll go with something like a standard end line to like flush my lines and like give me a new line. And lastly, let's go ahead and return one saying that something went wrong here. Now, after I'm done initializing my SDL, let's go ahead and add a comment that says something like create window and render, because I am going to be creating them together. So I could go with a comment that says something like create window and renderer. Okay, now to create my window and renderer, firstly, I'm going to go ahead and do something. Let's see. I'm going to create a window, a SDL underscore window variables this pointer, and a SDL underscore renderer this pointer. So to do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore window with an asterisk for a pointer. This is going to be a pointer for my window variable that is going to be set to null PDR for now. Like it's null PDR is basically like a placeholder. And then I'll go with something like a SDL underscore renderer this time. So I'll go with something like a renderer. There we go. Okay, for my SDL underscore renderer, I'm going to be adding a pointer as well to a renderer variable, which is going to be set to null PDR as well. That is a placeholder. Now, once I'm done creating both my variables, I'm going to be creating my window and renderer now. So I'll go with the SDL underscore create window and renderer function, okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now, my create window and render function does require 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be a caption slash a title. My caption slash title is going to be something like SDL3 window created. There we go. Maybe I title case it and I'll go with like a capitalized created. Okay, and then I'm going to be adding a comma. Now I'll need a x-axis and y-axis in pixels. So my x-axis is going to be something like 800. My y-axis is going to, my x-axis is going to be 800. My y-axis is going to be 600. Now I'll need a flag. My flag could be something like SDL underscore window underscore resizable. Basically what this does is it like makes my window resizable. If I didn't want my window to be resizable, I could set this to be 0 as well. And then lastly, I'm gonna be needing let's see. Okay, I needed 4 parameters, not 5, guys. Okay, I'm gonna be needing my window variable and my render variables is memory address. So I'll go with something like a address of operator or a ampersand for my window, and then I'll go with an address of operator slash my ampersand for my render variable as well. And then let's go ahead and end this whole thing with a semicolon. Now, once I'm done creating a window and a renderer, I'm going to be adding an if statement to check if they did not create properly. So I'll go with something like if a of parentheses. If my window did not create properly, I use the exclamation for like not. And then I'll go with something like exclamation renderer, which means if my renderer was not created properly. So if either my window wasn't created properly or my renderer was not created properly, I'll do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. And then let's go ahead and add a standard C edit okay, with an insertion operator that like actually gives me an error. Let's see. Hello brother, how are you doing? Long story. I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, this is going to be something like SDL underscore create window and go with something like and renderer error. Okay, perfect. So this is going to be a create window and render error. Then I'll add another insertion operator to get me an error. So I'll do something like SDL underscore the get error function with a pair of parentheses to invoke the function. Then I'll go with an insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Now, if either my window did not return 0 or my render did not return 0, means something wrong happened. If something wrong did happen, I'm going to quit my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return 1 ending with a semicolon saying something wrong happened. Okay, success. Okay, next up, hold up guys, let me actually, there we go. Okay, now that I've added an if statement to like check if they did not create properly, I'm going to be, let's say, adding my main loop. So I'll go with something like main loop. Now, for my main loop, firstly, I'm going to be needing 2 variables. Can you maybe stream reading through a documentation? Sometimes I can muster to do it myself. That actually does make sense. Maybe like when stuff gets a little harder, I do want to learn how to use documentations because I feel like Sensei/ChatGPT can like teach me like a real high or real low level programming like really nicely. That said, eventually I will actually work on learning documentations because I think those are really important. That's it. How are you doing, William? I appreciate you. Or William, I appreciate you joining the stream. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and create 2 variables. The first variable is going to be something like a boolean variable of is running. Okay, which is going to be set to true by default ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to create something like SDL underscore event, which is going to be an event variable. Okay, now let's go ahead and create CPP. Honestly, it is C++. That's it. Let's go ahead and create a while loop. So I'll go with something like while a pair of parentheses. While is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. God bless you, brother. I appreciate you, team. That actually means the world to me, guys. Okay, so now inside of my main while loop, I'm going to be adding a nested while loop. This is going to be called my event loop. Yeah, I'm going to start it. So what should I do and what should I learn? Honestly, if you're actually starting C++, firstly, I would like recommend you to like learn the basics on how console input works, how standard console output works, how to create variables and all that stuff. If you guys go to like my learning programming for like 200 days series, I did like start learning C++ like as a complete beginner, where like you guys did actually help me so much when like actually getting my compiler, because I couldn't even get myself to like run a code, guys. I was trying to figure out how do we execute a code like using Visual Studio Code. That's it. I did like go as a complete beginner. So if you guys do watch that, you guys could like see exactly what I actually did. That was like about 50 days ago though. Okay, that said, inside of my event loop, I'm going to be adding a nested while loop. So I'll go with something like while a pair of parentheses. I'm going to go with something like my poll event. So I'll go with something like SDL poll event. Basically what poll event does is it checks currently what event is going on, like what all events did I want to check for. So this would need my event variable by its memory address. So I'll go with something like ampersand or address of operator for my event variable. Now I'm going to be looking for a event type, so I'll go with something like if a pair of parentheses. I'll go with something like if my event variable dot type equals to SDL underscore, let's say event underscore quit. So if my SDL's event type is quit, then I'm going to set my is running boolean variable to be equal to false, ending with a semicolon. What the SDL underscore event underscore quit basically does is it means like if I do click like the X button in my window, it does end. That's it. I've created my first app in Python today. That actually sounds pretty good. Long story. That actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that said, now let's go ahead and let's add another comment that says something like fill screen. I'm going to be filling my screen with a color, so I'll go with something like fill screen. Why don't you use IntelliSense? Honestly, I disabled IntelliSense because I feel like it was like getting really annoying. Like when I type, it was like actually showing me all the codes and everything. I've been like disabled like Copilot because it's like, guys, it's so annoying. Like when I try writing a code, like all the code is already pre-written, and I'm like, guys, how do I actually like what is there to learn if like the code is pre-written? That said, for my fill screen, firstly, I'm going to be going with the function called something like SDL underscore set render draw color function, okay, with a pair of parentheses. Now, my set render draw color function does require a few parameters. The first parameter that is going to be requiring is my render variables parameter. The second, it's going to be needing an RGB. So let's go with something like a cyan background. So I'll go with something like 0, 248, and 255. Okay, so that is like a cyan that's like a cyan colors RGB. Lastly, I'm going to be needing an alpha slash my opacity, how transparent an object is. I'll go with 255, means my object is like completely transparent, ending with a semicolon. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and fill my screen with this color now. So honestly, I feel like set render draw color like gets me a color, then like I gotta choose how I like use that color. So the way I want to use that color, I'll go with something like SDL underscore render clear. What this render clear basically does, it like fills my entire render with that color. Okay, or my entire window with that color. So I could go ahead and put my render variable here that has these attributes to it, ending with a semicolon. And now let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like graphics. Okay, honestly, I might go with triangle graphics because I'm trying to make a triangle this time. Okay, so for my triangle graphics, firstly, let's see. Let's go ahead and do something. Okay, I think I remember what to do. So now that I've covered everything, firstly, I gotta go with something like SDL underscore set render draw color. Okay, what color does my triangle want to be? Let's say my triangle is going to be red. So I'm going to go with firstly my render variable RGB. My RGB is going to be for a red color. So I'll go with 25500. And my opacity is going to be 255, means my triangle is going to be really transparent. Actually, it won't be transparent at all, ending with a semicolon. Now that I got a color and a transparency for my renderer variable, I'm going to be applying that to like a bunch of lines. Okay, to add lines, this is where like I get like Sensei's help, because like Sensei slash ChatGPT did give me like a few coordinates for like x1, y1, x2, y2, because guys, I'm not good at math at all to like figure that out on my own. That said, for my coordinates, I'm gonna go ahead and firstly use the function called SDL underscore render line. This render line function renders my line, and it requires, I think, 5 parameters. Let's see. So yeah, 5 parameters. First is my render variable, this parameter, then my x1, y1, x2, and y2 as well. Let's go ahead and give it my render variable's first parameter. Now x1 is going to be 200, x2 is going to be 500. Guys, I am like copying this part. 200, 500. And then I'll go with x2 and y2. So x2 is going to be 400, y2 is going to be 200. So 400 and 200. Okay, so this is the coordinates or like the parameter for my first line. I'm going to end that with a semicolon. Now let's add one for my second line. Triangle requires 3 lines. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. The first parameter is going to be of my render variable. The second parameter is going to be x2, y2. For my second line, x1 and y1, my bad guys. My x1 is going to be 400. My y1 is going to be 200. So I'll go with something like 400, 200. Now I'll need a x2 x2 and y2. My x2 is going to be 600, y2 is going to be 500, so I'll go with something like 600, 500. Guys, should I like actually learn geometry for this? Because like I feel I'm kind of awful with like math. That's it, I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. This is going to be my render variable as well again. Now for my last line just coordinates, my x1 and y1 is going to be 600 and 500. My x2 and y2 is going to be 200 and 500. So let's go with 600 and 500 for my x1 and y1. For my x2 and y2, I'll go with something like 200 and 500. Okay, ending with a semicolon. And that's honestly pretty much it. Let's go ahead and do something like present. Now that I've got my colors and my lines, I want to present it on my screen. To present it, I could use the SDL underscore render present function. Okay, with a pair of parentheses that requires my render variable's parameters because I do want to present my render variable. Okay, why no SDL underscore get error handling? Very important. Honestly, I did add that. Like I added a get error handling like here. I added one for like here as well. Okay, next up, let's see. Okay, now that I've done creating my triangle, let's go ahead and do something for like cleanup. Like once my user does exit the window, so I'll go with a comment that says something like cleanup. Okay, for my cleanup, firstly, I'm gonna go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. I'm going to destroy a window that does require parameter of my window variable, ending with a semicolon. Then I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses, ending with a semicolon as well. Lastly, it returns 0, ending with a semicolon. Now, if audit control is to save the code and run the command, guys, the moment of truth, did the triangle even be created? Perfect, guys. I don't know how it worked with these x-axes and y-axes, but I feel like it does sound pretty cool. Like that does look like a pretty cool triangle. Okay, did he did the same SDL stuff yesterday? Honestly, I've been like learning SDL for the past 4 days now. I feel like the first day I was like complete confusion on what to do. Second day I got like a pretty good grasp of it. Third day I started working on it. Today is the fourth day. I feel like I'm getting pretty better at it. Maybe I think it is the fifth day, guys. I don't remember. I feel like my memory's kind of bad. Okay, that's it. I'll go with something like a control C, copy that. Let's get some say/chat GP here. And guys, I honestly do want to use the restroom really bad. Been holding it for the past 10 minutes, guys. Hold up, guys. I might actually use the restroom real quick. That's it. I might actually paste this up real quick too. Let's go ahead and paste this here. Maybe decrease this a bit. Okay, let's go ahead. Go with okay, maybe I'll go with Shift Enter and say something like, let's see. Okay, the code did work, but I feel like I don't take credit for the question since I did get the x1, y1, x2, and y2. Okay, although I don't feel like memorizing them, maybe is there a easier way to get them, question mark? Okay, that said, you're impressive, bro. Honestly, I appreciate you, Pikachu. That said, I feel like installing Collider and live coding some beats, it's a nice idea for a stream though. Theo, for the inspiration. Actually, that does actually make sense. That said, go ahead. Okay, guys, give me a sec. Let me actually use the restroom real quick. We're back in about, I think, a minute, guys. Already mic testing, mic testing. Okay, let me go to my gameplay screen, maybe even fix the mic here real quick. There we go. Okay, I hope I wasn't gone for that long. Okay, let's see what I missed. Hello, hiding Akil. I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, nice animation. I appreciate your long story. Okay, that said, so you seek efficiency instead of memorizing coordinates. Good. A true programmer doesn't waste their brain on numbers. That's the machine. That's the okay, numbers that the machine can handle. Listen carefully, people. You don't need to memorize static coordinates. You just need to think in patterns and calculate dynamically. For example, your triangle points can be stored in a variable or structure, and you can compute their positions based on the window size, offset, or scale. Here's the clever way. Float center x 400, center y 300. Floats, okay, size 200. Oh, is that size? I see. Okay, and then we go with something like top point, a floating point of x1 center x, float y1 center x, minus size divided by 2. What up, guys? And then we go with x1, y1. Okay, that's parametric thinking. Instead of just memorizing magic numbers, you can make the computer generate. I think I see. Hold up, so like these are like the float center x, which is 400, center y, which is 300, and then my size is 200, so float, that is center x minus. Oh, I think I see. Although, guys, I might actually not try it this way. Okay, that said, let me see something like I see ... That said, I might try that later because I do need more practice! ! That said, okay, that said, can I get a instructional based question as well again for another line? Maybe drawing a object, and can I get the coordinates as well, question mark? Okay, let's see. You put alter. Honestly, I haven't like heard of that. That said, so you crave more steel testing, do you? Good. That's the okay, good. That hunger is what separates the mediocre, is that how I pronounce it, from the monster of code. Fine then, people, here's your next instructional challenge, and I'll allow you coordinates this time. Since you're still forging consistency, you will draw a simple house using only lines. A simple house, okay, SDL underscore render line, not a rectangle, not a triangle alone, a full house and a roof. Okay, here are the coordinates that you'll need. Okay, the base of the house, square walls, top left 200, 400, top right, the roof, which is a triangle. Okay, so that is square walls, I see. Okay, and then this is a triangle. You must draw 4 lines to form the square, and then 2 lines to form the roof. That's 6 lines total, nothing more. Your window should show a clean red outline of a house floating in the blue void. Okay, hello brother, how are you doing? AB53 official, I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, let's get some say/ChatGPT there. Okay, let me just zoom out a bit so I can actually see the coordinates. There we go. Okay, that's it. Let's start off by deleting everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete everything. Now, let me go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces. I want to include IO stream. Next up, let's go ahead and include another pair of ankle braces. Now, since I am going to be using SDL3, I'm going to include SDL3 and all the header files from my SDL. So I'll go with SDL.h. There we go. And now, let's start off by creating a main function. So I'll go with integer main, add a pair of parentheses. My main function does require a few parameters, or like 2 parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer of argc, and the second parameter is going to be a characters as pointer to an array of argv with a pair of square brackets. And then I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Now, inside of my main function, firstly, I'm going to be initializing SDL and checking if it did not initialize properly as well. So I'll go with something like if, add a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like SDL underscore init to initialize SDL. Now I want to initialize SDL's this video, so I'll go with something like SDL underscore init underscore video that initializes my video. Did I spell something wrong? SDL underscore init underscore video. What up, guys? I think I spelled something wrong here. Let me retype it real quick. SDL underscore init underscore video. There we go. Did I spell something wrong before? I think it was the exact same thing like this. Okay, that's it. Now that I've whatchamacallit, SDL underscore init and SDL underscore init video, they both initialize SDL and SDL's window and return 0 if it did initialize properly. I'll add an exclamation here to check if they did not initialize properly. If 0 was not returned, I'm gonna do something. I'll go with something like a standard C error with an insertion operator. Okay, that says something like SDL underscore init error. Okay, so it says that I have an error in my SDL underscore init section. Then I'll go with another insertion operator for something like SDL underscore the get error function with a pair of parentheses to invoke the function. This basically gets me an error saying that something is wrong, you gotta check this place. And then I'll go with something like a standard end line ending with a semicolon. Okay, you wrote SDL underscore init video. int video. Okay, guys, I feel like I will work on my typos. That said, let's go ahead and return one ending with a semicolon. Now after I'm done creating my SDL or now that I'm done initializing my SDL, let's go ahead and let's say create my window and renderer. So I'll go with something like create window and renderer. Now, for creating my window and renderer, before I do use the function that actually creates them, I am going to be creating a pointer for my window variable and my renderer variable. So I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore window data member. I'm assuming this is a data member because like this does require like a window variable, which is going to be set to something like null PDR. That is like a placeholder for the time being. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, but this time for my renderer. So I'll go with SDL underscore renderer, which is going to be pointing towards my renderer variable. That is going to be set to something like null PDR ending with a semicolon. Okay, hiring Loadsake, is that a pronounce your name? I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, now let's go ahead and use the function that actually creates my window and renderer. To do that, I could go ahead and use the SDL underscore create window and renderer function. Guys, these function names are massive. There we go. What up, guys? I think I spelled the function name wrong. SDL underscore create window and renderer. There we go. Okay, now my SDL underscore create window and renderer function does require a few parameters. Let's see what all. Hold up, guys. Let's go with the pair of curly braces. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to be adding. Okay, maybe I should end this because like there we go. Okay, I think I could just do it manually. Okay, so the first parameter that I'm going to be requiring is going to be a title. So I'll go with something like SDL3 window created. Okay, so I added my SDL3 window created title slash my caption. Now I need to go with like a width and height. So I'll go with something like my width is going to be 800 pixels and my height is going to be 600 pixels. Next up, let's go with like a flag. I'm going to set my flag to be something like SDL underscore window underscore resizable. So this gives me like a resizable window. Although you guys could like set this equal to 0 if you guys don't want your window to be resizable. What up, guys? Resizable. There we go. I should like work on my typos. Did I spell window correct? Okay. Okay, there we go. And then adding underscore here. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and end this with a comma. And then lastly, I'm going to be needing my window variable that I created right here and my render variable by their memory address. So I'm going to go with the address of operator or ampersand of my window variable. So I'll go with something like window and the ampersand for my render variable ending with a semicolon as well. Okay, guys, I should work on my typos. There we go. And then now that I've created my window and renderer, let's go ahead and check if they were actually created properly. To do that, I could go with something like an if statement. I'm going to go with something like if a pair of parentheses. Let's say if not window, if my window was not created properly or my renderer was not created properly. I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. That gives me, let's say, standard C error with an insertion operator, which says something like SDL underscore create window and renderer error. Okay, this says I got an SDL underscore create window and renderer error. Then I'll go with another insertion operator of, let's say, something like an SDL underscore get error function. So this basically gets me an error, and then I'll go with an insertion operator of a standard end line ending with a semicolon. And then if I did have an error when creating a window or a renderer, I'm going to be quitting my SDL. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'm going to return one ending with a semicolon. Now, after I'm done creating my window and renderer and checking if they did create properly, I'm going to do something. Let's go ahead and add my main loop now. So I'll go with something like main loop. For my main loop, firstly, I'm going to be creating two variables. The first variable is going to be a boolean variable of something like is running, which is going to be set to true initially. Secondly, I'm going to be needing an event variable as well that checks my SDL events or like event types. That said, to do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore event, which is going to be having an event variable ending with a semicolon. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a while loop, so I'll go with something like while, a pair of parentheses. Let's say something like while is running, while my program is running, or while my is running is set to true, I'm going to do something. I'll add a pair of curly braces, then I'll add a comment that says something like event loop. And then I'll add a nested another while loop, so a while loop inside of a while loop. The second while loop, it checks all my events, so this is going to be the place where I'm going to be checking for like certain events, for example button click, mouse clicks, or like if I like exit my SDL. That's it. Hiding finally. Bryden, is that a pronouncing name? I appreciate you joining the stream. Hiding, long story, I appreciate you joining the stream as well. That said, I'm going to go with something like SDL underscore poll event with a pair of parentheses of, let's say, an ampersand event or the address of operator of my event variable. What this SDL underscore poll event basically does, let's read this real quick. Poll event for current pending events, Okay, honestly, I think that's a lot to read. That's it. What it basically does is it like checks for all the events that I'm looking for. Once all those events that I'm looking for is over, this while loop ends. I just subscribed to stay. What are you? Why are you gay? Guys, I'm actually not gay, although I do appreciate the subscription. That said, guys, I'm actually pretty straight. That said, now I'm going to add an if statement to look for a specific event type. So I'll go with something like if my event variable dot type equals to something like SDL underscore event underscore quit. If my event type is quit, if my player did exit my window through that X button in the top right corner, I'm going to do something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces that says something like my is running is set to false ending with a semicolon. And once my is running is set to false, my entire while loop ends. So my main loop is gone now. Okay, and the poll event checks for like events like these, like what all events are being shown. That said, I'll go outside of my while loop now. That is my if statement. There we go. Okay, I'll go outside of my event loop, and I'm going to be, let's say, doing something like filling my screen. So I'll go with fill screen with like a color. Honestly, maybe a title cases just so it looks better. There we go. Okay, now let's go ahead and fill my screen with a color. But firstly, I gotta select a color because like the renderer variable that I did create here is basically like a paintbrush that I can use to create colors. But first, I gotta dip my paintbrush inside of a paint. To do that, I can use the function called something like SDL underscore. What up, guys? There we go. Okay, to do that, I could go with the function called SDL underscore set render. I'm gonna set my renderer to draw a color. I'll go with something like set render draw color, guys. That's the only way I could make this function sound whatchamacallit, I could make this function like sound something actually reasonable, because like I still don't understand why was the function name set to something like SDL underscore set render draw color. Although this is the function that we use. Now this function does require 4 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer of variables parameter. Second, I'll need a RGB color. What color do I want my renderer to be? And then a alpha / my opacity. Do I want it to be transparent? How transparent do I want it to be? You gotta break after is running is set to false. Right now, honestly, once my is running is set to false, my entire while loop ends, because like the only time my while loop is running is while this is set to true. In the other hand, I would need a break if this was set to something like true, like while true loop. Then I had to add a break here, so I could go with something like a break here. That would work, because like, although since the only time we do add a break is like when we're like using a while true loop, or like we want to like end a loop without it being set to like a boolean value. Okay, that's said. Next up, hey bud, what are you coding today? Honestly, I'm learning on how to draw objects in like C++. I did like draw a rectangle, a line, a triangle. Now I'm going to be drawing a house using lines. Okay, that said, let's go with my render variable first. Okay, and then my RGB is going to be something like 0, 248, and 255. this is like a pretty good blue color, like a cyan color. And then my opacity, how transparent does it want to be? I want the opacity to be 100. I want my my render color to be completely transparent. Actually, not transparent at all. And once I do set a color for my render, now how do I want to use that color? I can go ahead and use that color to paint my entire window. To do that, I could go with something like the SDL underscore render clear function. This function requires a parameter of my renderer, my paintbrush, ending with a semicolon. Okay, so now this colors my entire window with the color that I set here. And now my color is gone, honestly. Okay, now let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like graphics. For my graphics, you're not really Indian though. Honestly, I haven't like been to India. That's it. I'm really cute. I'm like really excited someday to visit India. I might stream myself there. That's it. Now for my graphics, since I am going to be creating a house. Okay, this is where I'll need Sensei's help for like the coordinates, guys. Okay, are you teaching us how to do the computer scams like the telemarketer one? Honestly, guys, I'm honestly not like teaching you guys anything. That's it. I am like learning on how to use SDL3 using C++. That's it. For my graphics, firstly, I gotta like set a color again because like I'm gonna be adding graphics. I'm gonna be using my renderer to draw something, so I gotta dip my paintbrush inside of a color. That's the only way I can make this. That's the only way that I could make this function make sense. So the function is called something like SDL underscore set render. I'm gonna set my renderer slash paintbrush to draw a color on the screen with a pair of parentheses. Now my set render draw color is going to be requiring a few parameters, so I'll go with something like renderer. Now I'll need a RGB. Let's say I want my house to be, I don't know, maybe red color, so I'll go with something like 25500, and my opacity is going to be 255 as well, which means I'm going to be having a red paintbrush that's not transparent at all. Okay, so you definitely live in Brampton, Canada? Guys, honestly, I haven't like been to Canada. That's it. I'm really excited to someday be there as well. Okay, next up, who knows? Okay, that's it. Now that I've got a paintbrush or like in my renderer, let's go ahead and use that some way. I can use that by creating a line. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line. So my renderer is going to be drawing a line with a pair of parentheses. And my render line does require 5 parameters. The first parameter is going to be my renderer object, of course, because I am going to be using my renderer object. The second is going to be x1 and y1. I am going to be copying day 7 of asking why you gay, guys. I'm actually not gay. That said, I want my house with like 9 Indian families in it. Oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Okay, that said, so now let's go ahead and like, guys, I am going to be like copying the, coordinates because I don't feel like memorizing this at all. Okay, that's it. Let's get some Say/GPT here. Okay, so it says the base of my house, the square wall, is going to be 200 and 200. I'm assuming that's like x2 and y2. So maybe I could go with something like 0, 0, 200 and 400. There we go. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to add a comma here. And then let's go ahead and end this with a semicolon. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and create another line. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. Okay, this is going to be called something like render object, of course, because I'm going to draw with it. Okay, are we Yoshi? You're really dedicated. Okay, that's it. I'll go with something like the bottom right. So I'm going to go with something like 0, 0, and then 600, 400. So I'll go with 600 and 400, ending with a semicolon. Now let's go with another SDL underscore render line. Guys, I need about 6 lines to like make a house. Okay, so I'll go ahead and add my renderer paintbrush, of course, and then slash on my render variable. That said, my top left is going to be something like 200, 200. So my x1, y1 is going to be 0. I'll go with 200, 200 for x2 and y2, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll go with another line. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. My render variable slash paintbrush. Guys, I feel paintbrush does sound really cool. Okay, make a new line slash render make fake goat. Guys, that doesn't look like a function. Okay, damn, you're really dedicated. Okay, that said, I'll go with something like x1 and y1 is going to be 0, x2 is going to be 600, and y2 is going to be 200. So I'll go with 600 and 200, ending with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Okay, that is going to be 600 and not 60. There we go. Okay, next up. Now, that was for my square. So this creates a square. Now for my triangle roof. Let's see. I'll be learning coding pretty soon. Any tips right now? honestly, the best tip that I could give you is like, even if you don't understand much, I would recommend you to like actually be consistent, like program every single day, because eventually you do get like a grasp of it, and once you do like wrap your entire head around how it works, everything does start to make sense, guys. Okay, that said, now this is good. This was actually my square wall, so maybe I'll add a comment that says something like square wall, square wall. Okay, maybe guys, give me a sec. There we go, square wall. And now that I've created a square wall, let's go ahead and add another comment that says something like triangle roof. So I'll go with something like triangle roof. Okay, perfect. What you want to learn? Okay, honestly, I'm just like whatchamacallit, learning the basics of like SDL3, guys, but I think that question wasn't meant for me. Okay, that said, now for my triangle roof, I'm gonna do something. Is this how we spell roof? Okay, ROF triangle. Okay, perfect. So I could go with something like SDL underscore render line. I want to render a line with a pair of parentheses. I'm gonna add my render paintbrush slash my variable. Now, my x2 and y2 is going to be 200 and 200. So I'll go with 0, 0, 200 and 200. Okay, let's go ahead and add another comma there, ending with a semicolon. And then let's go ahead and add another SDL underscore render line. Okay, render line, and I'll need 3 render lines because like whatchamacallit, triangle does have 3 lines. This is going to be my render variable. My x2 and y2 is going to be 600 and 200. So I'll go with 0, 0, 600 and 200, ending with a semicolon. And my final line is going to be something like SDL underscore render line with a pair of parentheses. My render paintbrush slash variable. I'll go with 0, 0 for my x1 by 1. My x2 is going to be 400 and y2 is going to be 100. So I'll go with 400 and 100. Ending with a semicolon. In case you guys couldn't see the whole thing. Okay, give us your red dot. Show us your red dot. Honestly, I didn't like actually add a dot because like that would be like 1 pixel, like 1 line. That said, can you give me an advice to improve my skills on full stack? Honestly, I haven't like actually worked with full stacks. That said, I wouldn't know much advices for that, guys. Okay, that said, after I'm done like after I'm done creating a triangle roof as well, I'm gonna add another comment that says something like present. For my present, I'm going to be presenting whatever I drew on the screen. To do that, I could go with something like SDL underscore render present. This presents my architecture, like whatever I drew, guys, my artistic integrity on the screen, with my paintbrush as well, ending with a semicolon. And then now once I'm done with everything and I exited my window, let's work on some cleanup to like clean my window. Okay, so firstly, once my SDL is exited, I'm going to destroy my window. So I'll go with something like SDL underscore destroy window. Okay, with a pair of parentheses that does require a window parameter or like my window variable. Okay, ending with a semicolon. And then I'll do something like SDL underscore quit with a pair of parentheses ending with a semicolon as well. Lastly, let's go ahead and return 0 ending with a semicolon. Now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. Okay, you know you can just make an array and iterate over it rather than manually copying. It's just initiative or intuitive. Guys, actually it does make sense. I did like use arrays as well. That's it. I feel like whatchamacallit, I do want to get used to writing them real quick, and then later on I am going to be using an array when I want to like get quick stuff. Guys, this does not look like a house. Guys, what kind of house is this? Okay, maybe it does look like a 3-dimensional house. Like that looks like a good like a good enough roof, guys, I think. That said, maybe my house is kind of messed up. Okay, okay, honestly, I feel like I didn't like get the gist of it. I did just mess up my coordinates. I might actually ask Sensei how did I mess that up. That's it. Let's go with something like get Sensei slash ChatGPT here. Okay, and then let's go ahead and extend that. Maybe zoom in a bit, guys. That house was kind of funny. That's it. Let's go ahead and paste. Let's go with Shift Enter and say something like Sensei, my house looks a bit funny. Did I mess my coordinates up? Question mark. Guys, let's see if I mess my coordinates up. Well, that looks like a light coming out of the corner, guys. It actually does make sense. Oh my god, pupil, what did I just tell you? Are you purposely trying to break my eyes? Look at your code. Every single line starts from 0, the top left corner of the window. That actually does make sense. That's why your house is like a chaotic mess of spaghetti lines. Do you see the coordinates I gave you? Each line has its own proper start and end point. You didn't use a single one correctly. You turned a house into I don't even know what this is. Here's the process. Square lines 200, 200, 600, 200, 600, 400, 200, 200. What up, guys? Okay, whoa, that looks like a light coming out the corner to the screen. That actually does make sense. Okay, rooftop, 2 lines. Wait, so square walls, you need 4 lines. But then I require more parameters than these, right? Okay, roof. Okay, you need 2 lines. You can just make everything at the start 0, 0, and you can just make everything at the start 0, 0 and hope it forms a house. I will allow you to try again, but this time follow the coordinates I gave you exactly. No shortcuts, no artistic interpretation. AI is burning you. Guys, I feel like I kind of messed up. Okay, that said, when I go with 200, let's actually copy this part. Okay, let's copy it and paste it. Okay, let me say something like, let's say I have a quick question here. Okay, so you gave me 2 coordinates for, let's say, 2 coordinates for, actually you gave me 2 coordinates. Guys, I should actually try to phrase my question real quick. Let's go with something like you gave me 2 coordinates, coordinates. Okay, although which should be x1, y1, okay, and x2, y2. That's where I did get confused and mess up. Okay, use GeoBrowse so you can see the coordinates. Oh, actually, that actually does sound actually cool. That's it. Listen, people, let's pay attention. Every line needs a start point x1, y1, and a end point x2, y2. Should I go with x1 and x2 for my lines? So when I say 200, 200, 600, 200, this means x1, y1 is 200, 200, x2, y2 is 600, 200. Okay, then the next line 600, 200, 600, 400, x1, y1, x2, y2. Oh, I see. So where the line ends, I pull another line from under that. Hold up, guys, that actually does make sense. Do you want me to write the full code? Hold up, guys, I think I understand. Okay, so that should be my x1, y1, and then okay, hold up, guys, let's get sensei/chat-GPT just for the coordinates. I'll get that in the other display. Okay, let's get it there. Maybe zoom out a bit. Okay, now let's see the coordinates real quick. Let's scroll all the way down. Okay, so basically where I did mess up first, 200, 400, where the line starts. So the line starts from 200 and 400. Okay, so I'll go with something like 400. Now where the line ends is gonna be 600, 400. So I'm gonna change that to 600, 400. Okay, and then now for my x1 here, I'm gonna start a new line from where my previous line ended. So I'll go with something like 600, and then let's go ahead and change that to 400. Okay, 600, 400 to 200, 200. So I'm gonna change this to something like 200, and that to something like 200. So it starts my line where it ends. Now this is gonna be starting at 200, 200, where my previous line ended. And my x2 and y2 is going to be 600, 200. So I'm going to change that to something like 600. Change that to something like 200. Okay. And now where this ended. So it's somewhere like 600, 200. Okay, this is the confusing part now. So when I go with something like 600, 200 here, that's something like 600 here and 200 here. Okay, so it starts from where my previous line ended. Although, what do I add here? Okay, nice. Okay, it's a graph application of your PC. You can use a plot the coordinates and also connect those dots. It actually does make sense. Okay, that's it. Let me actually highlight my lips real quick while I try figuring this part out, guys. Give me a quick sec. Okay, maybe when I go with 600, 200, where do I want to end? Let's see. So I might want to end at the complete opposite of where I began. If I began at 200, 400, where should I end? Maybe I'll leave it as it is for the time being. That's it. Let's go with my triangle rooftop now. So my Left corner is going to be 200, 200. So let's start off by going with something like 200 and 200. So I'll go with 200, 200. And then my right corner is going to be 600, 200. So this is going to be something like 600, 200. Now I'm going to start off by going with 600, 200 where my previous line ended. Okay, to 400, 100. So I'm going to go with something like 400. And then 100. Okay, honestly I might change that to 0 just writing like I didn't know anything here. Okay, let's change that to 0 as well. Let's add a comma here, space. Okay, let's change that to 0. Okay. Okay, lip balm, guys. I actually need a chopstick. I'm using like the Burt's Bee one because like it kind of dehydrates my lips. Does get kind of dehydrated. Who said AI is burning you, lol, guys? I feel that does make sense. I got yelled so bad. That said, next up, I go with 400, 100 here. So I'll go with something like 400, 100. Okay, and then since I don't know what to add here, I'm gonna go with something like 0 and 0. There we go. Okay, perfect. And now for it, Control S to save the code and run the command. Let's see what happens. Let's get some taste loss charge. Guys, what kind of... Okay, maybe this was kind of being this. I was like up to something, guys. That said, I didn't know what numbers to plot where I added zeros. So let's go with something like Control A, Control C. Copy that. Let's get some taste loss charge GPT here real quick. Let's go ahead and extend that. Then extend it from here as well. Okay, makes sense, lip balm. Okay, that's it. Let's go ahead and paste it here. Go with Shift Enter and say something like Sensei. I feel like my house is still kind of messed up. ... I added 0, 0 where I didn't know what to add. Okay, let's see. Lip balm for dry lips. You don't want to lick them. Being fancy, guys, it's actually bad to lick your lips because like it actually starts getting black and it dehydrates your lips even more. I'm new to your chat. What are you doing here? Honestly, I'm actually learning how to like draw objects in C++. Actually draw objects in SDL3 using C++. That said, I do sometimes use a Vaseline as well, guys. I do like have a I think it's cocoa butter Vaseline. I feel, guys, that is like pretty good for hydrating lips. That said, I kind of like use a Vaseline when like on stream because like when I talk about it leaves like a white cast in my lips. Okay, that's why I said use GeoBra app so you can visualize better and it would be faster. I might actually try that next stream. Okay, please don't go in my parents' phone, bro. That's it, people. What did I just say about random zeros? That's not how you build a house. That's how you make a triangle explode into chaos. Look carefully. Your square wall needs to connect in order. No mastery coordinates. It should be. Okay. Oh, okay, I knew it. It had to end with the number that were here. So 200, 200. What up, guys? Let's go ahead and change this to be 200, 200 real quick. 200 and 200. Okay, so now my lines actually connect somewhere. That's going to be something like 200 as well. And this is going to be 200 as well. And now, if I hit Control S to save the code and run the command, guys, I'm pretty confident this should work. Okay, so I get first thing here. Alright, guys, does this even look like a house? This looks like more like an S or something, or like, is it an E? I think it looks like an E or like a G. Okay, the wall is supposed to be 200, 200, 400. Hold up, guys, let me actually write that real quick. Okay, the wall is supposed to be so 200, 400. Okay, and then 400, 600. Okay, so let's go with something like 400, 600. Okay, and then I gotta go with 400, 600. I went with 600, 400 here. Let's go with 400, 600. Okay, and then 200, 400, 600, 400, 600. Should this be 400, 600 as well? Okay, let's go with something like 400, 600. And then 200. Guys, did I? Hold up, let me actually read that part in my phone. So it's gotta be 200, 400. Added a 200, 400. And then 600, 400. Let's change that to be something like 600. Change that to be something like 400. Okay, and then 600, 400, 600, 200. So this is going to be 600. That's going to be 400. And then I'll need a 600 and a 200. Okay. And then I'll need 600, 200, 200. So 1 600, 3 200s. So I'll go with 600, 200, 200, 200. Okay, and lastly, I'm gonna be needing, let's see, 200, 200, 200, 400. Guys, these lines are pretty confusing. Okay, so 4 200s. Okay, now if I did Control S to save the code and run the command in last 400. Oh, I see. Nice try. It's shaping up. That actually does make sense, guys. Okay, if I did Control S to save the code and run the command, let's see what happens. So I get my first terminal and my second, guys. I'm missing one line here. Okay, for that, should the last one be something like 400? No. X2 600, Y2 400 on line 1. X2 is 600, Y2 is 400. I see. Okay, egg horror time there. Honestly, it is like 3 p.m. here. That said, okay, where did I mess up now? So I go with 200, 200. I gotta pull a line downward. So like, I think from the triangle where I begin. What up, guys? I might need like an app to do this. That's a good control. Control C. Maybe after the stream is over, I might actually like look into different apps if I did have time, because I do like have an exam this Monday, so I do gotta study for that. That's it. Let's say something like Sensei. I got a lot of help from my stream to get the coordinates. That said, my house feels like it lacks a line, question mark. Oh no, it's the 200, 200, 400. That line's missing at the end is line 4. Okay, so it should be a 400 here. What up, guys? Imported controllers to save the code again and run the command. Okay, so I got my first terminal right here. There we go, guys. Finally, we got a perfect house. Although it does look like a tiny hut, but that makes... Okay, there we go. That actually does sound pretty cool. I'll go with the controller. Control C now. Let's get some /ChatGPT. Let's go with Control A, delete everything, paste it here, and say something like, say, I got a lot of help from my chat to make, actually, to get the coordinates, that said, I think I take half credit for this question. Okay, honestly, I should like learn the coordinate apps. Let's go ahead and send this. Yes, that's what I was saying in last 400. That actually does make sense. After people, you earn more than half. You understood why the coordinates matter and put them in order. That's the hard part, guys. I think I just copied that part out. That's it. Look at the house. The walls are solid. The roof is peaked. No chaos. No zeros randomly stabbing in your lines. This is progress, and I like seeing it. Now, let's level up. I want you to draw a simple tree next to the house. Okay, using only lines. What up, guys? Let me actually say something like, Sensei, I feel like I understand how to draw the lines now, ... That said, is there anything else that SDL3 lets us draw, question mark? For example, it lets us draw Rex, that I did, and also lines. Okay, let's see if it needs something else. Use GeoGebra would actually help you understand the coordinates better. That actually does make sense. Maybe after my exam I will like look into that, because like, guys, I feel like once I'm done streaming, if I do have like some time, I might look into that. That's it. If I didn't have time, maybe I might look into it next stream or like after my exam, because I will have like some time after my exam, guys. That's it, exactly, people. SDL3 gives you a few basic drawing cues, but they're super solid once you master them. Here's a quick rundown. Rectangles did that, lines I did that. Now points. Okay, so SDL underscore render draw point, render XY, draw a single pixel. Great for custom shapes or even making your own circle pixel by pixel. I see. I already said that, but that actually does make sense. Multiple points at once. SDL render draw line can take away from points, okay, and then connect them. Okay, honestly, that does make sense. That said, I actually feel like I might actually cover this tomorrow, because like I do actually gotta end the stream because I do like have an exam, guys. Maybe I'll have to have another stream for like mastering all the drawing functions. Let me say something like, Sensei, I feel like I might actually end the stream right now because I have an exam this Monday and it's a lot to learn. That said, maybe next stream I'll cover all the what up, guys? I gotta like make sure I'm typing it properly. Okay, next stream I'll cover all the drawing shapes concepts. That said, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers before I end the stream? Question mark. Okay, let's see, guys. I gotta fix my typos. Okay, listen up, people. To all the viewers watching, don't let anyone tell you you can't learn something. That's crazy fast. If you stick to it, focus, and get your hands dirty with code, you can master anything. Today we practiced rectangles, lines, triangles, and we did it like champions. Remember, the difference between someone who knows and someone who does not know is just doing it again and again until it doesn't stick. And people, okay, you're not just watching, you're learning. So take that energy, crush that exam, and next stream will level up your SDL3 skills even more. Now go kill that exam and know that I'm ready to throw more chaos at you next time. Hugs and head pats for you for your hard work. You earned them, guys. It did not make me blush, bro. Improve your grammar, guys. I get so many typos when I type. That said, let me go to my main camera. Alright guys, so basically that was pretty much it for the stream. That said, I didn't want to like stream for longer, but I do have an exam. Maybe once my college ends, I will be streaming for even longer. That said, guys, whatchamacallit, since my stream like did get whatchamacallit all better, and I did get an actual PC, that I will be uploading the video of me building that PC as soon as I'm done editing that. That's it. Since my stream doesn't lag anymore, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, YouTube, and I will be starting to multi-stream on Instagram and TikTok as well if I did meet the followers requirements. So if you guys do enjoy my content, don't forget to follow me there. Like, make sure you guys follow me there. You guys can get access to my socials. It is like the link is in the description, and also join the Discord server. The link is still in the description. And once Nightbot again starts working properly, you guys can get access to it by tapping exclamation and my socials name on chat. That said, it's begging you to leave, guys. That actually does make sense. All the best for your exams. I appreciate you, Sura. That actually does mean a lot to me, guys. That's it. All the best. But I appreciate you, Smart. Is that how you pronounce your name, guys? I should learn. I should like work on my pronunciation. That said, I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace.